Welcome to the Model Health Show. This is fitness and nutrition expert Shawn Stevenson, and I'm so grateful for you tuning in with me today. Listen, this show is about having health in all areas of life. You know, your relationships, your finances, your career, and of course, your physical health and fitness, your physical appearance. But as I've talked about many times, I truly believe that your relationships are the biggest determinant in your overall health and well-being, and also the success in your life. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. But more so, I want to make sure that you understand the depth at which the work that you do influences your overall health, you know, because most of us spend at least half of our life doing work. All right. This is more time than we spend with our loved ones, more time than we spend in leisure. And so where we invest our energy and how we invest our energy really does matter a lot. In fact, unhappiness at work and newly classified, quote, job burnout has become a huge cost to our economy. Now, this is according to the American Institute of Stress. Financial burden from job burnout today, from absenteeism resulting from burnout, employee turnover, reduced productivity and medical expenses, legal and insurance expenses is staggering, with the total cost to the U.S. businesses today being at over $300 billion a year, thanks to burnout, right? Now, researchers from the University of Zurich say burnout often results when your personality and inner motivations are a mismatch with your job situation, all right? Now, this might sound a little familiar to you, all right? It's just not matching up. My personality, my motivations in life don't match up to the gig that I currently have. Now, there's a lot to unpack there. And of course, we're going to dive in and break this all down today. We've got one of the best people in the world to tell you there's another way. All right. So I want you to stay tuned for that. But the researchers also noted that the typical experiences of burnout can include a lack of motivation, poor efficiency on the job, and feelings of helplessness. All right. That's a very disempowering experience in reality. And even more concerning, though, is that those feelings of burnout are also linked. Now, we've got clinical evidence linked to serious health problems, including anxiety, heart disease, immune disorders, insomnia, and depression. Now, one other study that I thought was really fascinating, researchers at the Ohio State University compiled data showing that happiness on the job, or lack thereof, appears to have the biggest impact on midlife mental health, all right? And the researcher said, quote, "We found that those with lower job satisfaction levels throughout their late 20s and 30s have worse mental health by the time they reach their 40s compared to those with high job satisfaction levels." All right, so again, this isn't just hearsay, this isn't guessing. Our work that we do, our happiness, our experience of passion and fulfillment does carry over and play a role in our health. So the study presented at the annual meeting of the American Sociological Association suggests that there is a cumulative effect when it comes to job satisfaction, and it's reflected in your health by your early 40s. And the lead author of the study said that, quote, "Most people spend almost half of their waking life at work, and it's important that you are able to find some joy during this time." All right, and that's what today's episode is all about. And I think one of the ways around this, if you are not currently doing work that you're happy about or that you're passionate about, is to tie something bigger to it. Before we even get into the real meat of the conversation today, it's really about, you know, I love the statement that how you do anything is how you do everything, and really putting your heart and soul and finding a bigger connection to the work that you are doing. And for example, instead of looking at it as something that I have to do, you could change that template, because again, like a lot of times we can't just jump out of where we are and get into something else, but maybe you're tied to, I get to take great care of my family. Right? And that's the internal kind of motivation and drive that connects to whatever it is that you're doing. Another thing is that I get to develop skills and a work ethic that will help me later in life. Another thing is I get to show up and help people in whatever way, in blank way, whatever type of job that you're doing. It's usually affecting people at some level, right? And even if it's not your passion, you get to make a difference. All right? So that's one way, is just changing your belief structure in the work that you are doing. Another way is to give yourself permission and the tools that you need to do the work that you love. And as you'll discover today, what kind of work that you do is all about you. All right, it's all about you. Now, we're also going to cover some things that you can be outsourcing, which is really interesting, to save you time and energy to help you to improve your health and fitness. And all of this, again, we got the best person in the game to talk about this stuff. So before we get to that, I want to give a quick shout out to our show sponsor, Organifi. Listen, everybody agrees on this one thing. There's not a health professional that's like, you know what? Vegetables are terrible. All right. Everybody agrees on this one point. Whatever kind of diet framework that you're living in, that you're experimenting with, that you're utilizing, this is the consistent thing. And why is that? Well, this is why the Model Health Show, what we do is we take we peel back the layers. We take a peek behind the curtain and see what's actually going on. So this really has to do with your blood. All right. Your blood. The green blood of the plants, which is chlorophyll, is almost exactly the same as your hemoglobin, human blood. All right. Hemoglobin is the oxygen transport system in your red blood cells. And it's a chemical structure, again, exactly like chlorophyll, almost, except the main difference is that hemoglobin is built around iron, whereas chlorophyll is built around magnesium. And so being so similar, when we eat these foods, these green leafy vegetables specifically, and what happens is the chlorophyll helps to do jobs that hemoglobin is imparted with the drive to do. And so, for example, this helps promote circulation, building blood, cleansing the blood, increasing the number of red blood cells that you have, and therefore increasing the oxygen throughout your body. All right. So this is why these greens matter. Where can we get the best sources, the most concentrated sources? One of them is chlorella. All right. Chlorophyll, chlorella. And this is one of the highlighted ingredients in Organifi. All right. Why go for third best? All right. Get the best. Plus, they've got moringa, spirulina, very, very dense green superfood as well. It's just super loaded with antioxidants and nutrients and enzymes and phytochemicals, all cold processed, so you actually are getting the nutrients that you think you're getting. All right. So please do yourself a favor. Make sure to get on Organifi like yesterday. All right. I use this every day. Give it to my kids. Head over to Organifi.com/model. That's ORGANIFI.com/model for 20% off. 20% off. All right, head over and check them out today. And on that note, let's get to the iTunes review of the week.
Another 5-star review titled Smooth and Informative by SoCal Daryl. As an account manager, driving from account to account and often stuck in traffic on the 405, it's wonderful listening to Shawn's smooth voice interviewing guests and sharing so much cutting-edge knowledge on fitness, nutrition, and life. Thank you, Shawn. You're the bomb cyclone of podcasts.
Oh my goodness, the bomb cyclone. Oh, that's hard hitting. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that review. And everybody, thank you for heading over to iTunes and leaving me these reviews. I truly, truly do appreciate it. If you've yet to do so, please pop over and leave me a review for the show. I truly appreciate it. And on that note, let's get to our special guest and topic of the day. Our guest today is the incredible Chirs Ducker. And Chris is a serial entrepreneur and author of the best-selling book, Virtual Freedom. And his latest book, Rise of the Youpreneur, which I have right here, advanced copy. Now, originally from the UK, Chris has lived in the Philippines for 17 years, where I last saw him. And he founded multiple businesses in the Philippines, which combined for over 450 full-time employees. Can you imagine that? Right? I'm just trying to take care of yourself, right? Trying to manage yourself and then, having that kind of drive and growth. And he'll tell you today that this was a step-by-step process. It wasn't an overnight thing. And he's a trusted international business mentor, keynote speaker, podcaster, blogger, as well as the founder of Youpreneur.com. And Chris hosts the annual Youpreneur Summit, which is held in London, England, each November, and is a self-proclaimed proudest Brit doing business online. And I'd like to welcome to the Model Health Show my friend, Chirs Ducker. What's up, Chris?
Hey, I'm good, my brother. What about yourself? Everything good?
Everything is outstanding. We were just saying I haven't seen you since the Philippines, since your event, man. It was just the best time ever. So I just want to thank you again for inviting me out.
No, thank you very much for coming out and spending time with us. It was an utter pleasure to host you here on the islands. It really was.
Oh, man, thank you. And by the way, guys, if you get a chance, make sure to go to one of Chris's events. There really is nobody doing it better. I mean, for the speakers and also for the attendees, that total experience. Like a lot of times when you go to events, you don't get to connect with the speakers. Like people were hanging out with me. It was a really great time. We had interaction. We had breakout sessions. It was just a really good time. Plus the cultural stuff. And I can't even imagine what you're going to do for folks in the UK. So, and by the way, you might see me you might see me popping in the UK as well. So
are we going there now? This is great. I love it.
We're going to keep the suspense. So, yeah, man, I would love if you would just kind of, jump in, chime in, and share your superhero origin story. How in the world did this handsome Brit end up in the Philippines and impacting the lives of thousands upon thousands of people all over the world?
Well, I came over to the Philippines in the year 2000 and was working with one of the big international banks here. And after a few years, I kind of broke away from that and was setting up my consulting company. So I was working with a lot of, back in the early 2000s, outsourcing was a big thing here in the Philippines. It's still a huge industry. It's massive. But back in those days, a lot of the international companies, such as people over in the United States, the UK, Australia, all over Europe, they were looking at, the Philippines and India and these other kind of outsourcing hotspots as places to be able to go, and obviously cost-saving benefits, around-the-clock customer service, and all that kind of stuff. And what I did as part of my consulting service was I helped a lot of people set up these small to medium-sized call centers. And after about 2 years of doing this, I thought, hang on, there's something out of whack here. I'm helping other people do this, and I could be doing it for myself and just making a whole lot more money. And so I set up my own call center. And, I've been in the sales and marketing business my entire career, from back in the UK when I was in the publishing and the event organization type of industries. And we just kind of rolled into, starting the company up. We had 6 people to begin with. It was myself and my wife were employees numbers 1 and 2, and then we slowly but surely kind of built it up over the course of a few years. Got to 100 people, 150 people. Then I burned out brutally, and I know you want to talk about that. Yeah. And then I recovered from the burnout, which was fantastic. And then, lo and behold, with me not really being involved all that more, we grew a lot very quickly. So yeah, we're now up to like 450 people. We've got several different brands within the actual group of companies, and now I get to really do. And I loved your intro when you were talking about doing things, things that you love to do. You should be experiencing joy in your work. And I can honestly, truly say, after 14 years as an entrepreneur, I am now genuinely happier in my life than I've ever been before. And it's because I'm doing the work that I was truly meant to do on this planet. I know that in my heart.
Oh my goodness. And that's one of the reasons that I want to bring you on. And I'm so excited to talk to you, is you're helping other people to do that and showing them that there is another way. And in fact, you're a lot closer to it than you can imagine. You've pushed into culture now the concept of the Youpreneur, right? The Youpreneur. So first of all, what is that? And second of all, why does that matter today?
Well, a Youpreneur is somebody that wants to build a business based around them, their personality, their experience, and the people that they want to serve, ultimately. I'm a big believer that you serve first and you sell later. And actually, even more so, if you serve well enough, you'll never have to actually sell at all, because people don't like to be sold to, but we love to buy. And so as entrepreneurs, we want to get to the point where people just want to buy whatever it is we're putting out there. And we can do that by genuinely just being valuable and bringing richness into their lives in the way that we're helping them. So I work with people like, coaches, authors, speakers, podcasters, bloggers, consultants, anyone really building that business based around them and their personality and what they stand for. And like I said, it's the happiest time in my career. I love every single minute of it.
I love that, man. So let's talk a little bit about how people are a lot closer than they think. I believe that today everybody is their own brand in a way, whether you understand it or not. If you've got a Facebook page, you've got your own brand. This is something that's totally different. This is really brand new from what our ancestors experienced, where it's just a lot of obscurity. There is a couple of celebrities in whatever, culture, but today we all have a voice. We all have a kind of public appearance, And that's going to blend in, and I want to talk about this too, with your personal experience, not just public, but being more yourself. So let's talk a little bit about this this concept of how everybody today is kind of like their own brand.
Well, because if you think about it, your brand becomes your reputation, right? And your reputation is ultimately what people say about you when you're not around. So when you're not at that conference, or when you're not at that coffee meeting, or when you're not at that dinner party, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So the big question is, when I'm not around, how do I want people to talk about me? Mm-hmm. Sit back and think about that for a minute. Like, how do I actually want people to talk about me? Not my business, not what I do, not my book or anything, but actually me. And when you get to the very deep core of that, it really comes down to what you stand for, the people you want to work with, and what you're going to do, like I said, to bring a certain level of richness and change into their lives. So, you know, I don't care if you're 14 or whether you're 64. You have a personal brand, like you say, and particularly in the online world, whether you're even an entrepreneur or not. If you are using social media, that's your personal brand. And you can bet your bottom dollar that your employers are looking at your social media. So you're going to be very, very careful with what you do. You know, the whole Big Brother thing is never any truer than it is today. So, but when we talk about entrepreneurs particularly, you know, your brand stands for a lot more than just what your reputation's about. It's about what your life's work is going to be and what your legacy is going to end up being. And, you know, for me, when it comes to my legacy, I don't want to have to die for my legacy to come about and for people to recognize it. I want to know what my legacy is. I want to experience it. I want to pass it on to my children, all 4 of them, which is why I clearly have no hair left. So, you know, the bottom line here is that, you know, your personal brand is really at the very core. Nowadays, it's at the very, very core of who you are as a person, let alone an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And now I want to really dive in and unpack this. You know, the word entrepreneur might throw some folks off, but I know there are a lot of entrepreneurs listening. But everybody listening, you're an entrepreneur in some form or fashion in your life. The word entrepreneur is derived from, and we can just go to the Spanish etymology, is basically means to undertake, right? We're constantly undertaking things and looking for ways to be more efficient and effective. And to basically, an entrepreneur is looking for a result. Right. So you might be an entrepreneur in your family management. You might be an entrepreneur in the sense of your business. But what I want to talk about is, and for everybody listening, we highlighted the show by talking about how your work impacts your health and how your work impacts everything in your life. And so for the folks listening that, number one, you're content. You're just like, you know, this is my lot in life. I'm not trying to change what I'm doing. I'm good. So be it. And I shared some nuggets of wisdom on how to reframe it so that you're still getting some joy and some fulfillment out of that. But for the people listening right now that want to do something that they're passionate about, let's talk about some of the first steps. Let's talk about identifying what that is. What can people do to kind of like turn their passion into profit or turn their passion into a service that they're doing?
Well, I mean, the first thing they need to do is they need to figure out who they really are. Like, to begin with, what do they want to be known for? What are they going to talk about? What kind of content are they going to create? More importantly, who are they actually going to create it for? And so right at the beginning of the book, there's an exercise that actually comes up quite regularly in one way, shape, or form, where I talk about the Youpreneur self-awareness test. And this is so easy for anyone to do, yet very few people actually do it, even really successful people. So what you do is just get a piece of paper, you draw a line down the middle, and on the left-hand side of the piece of paper, you write down what I call the flatter yourself list. So this is all the stuff where you can really kind of just blow your own trumpet, toot your own horn, and just go off, like just talk about how amazing you are at all these things. And then on the other side, you have a list which I call the Get Real list, or Keeping It Real list, one or the other. And in this list, you talk about all the things that you are not very good at. Now, the entrepreneur DNA in us says that we're amazing at everything, right? So it's a tougher list to put together. It's very easy to talk ourselves up, but it's not so easy to talk against ourselves and our skill sets, right? But it's a very, very important list to make, because when you've got those two lists right there in front of you, ultimately what happens is it becomes your roadmap, your blueprint of sorts, to actually go ahead and start building what I call the business of you. And when you build the business of you, something incredible happens. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, what market you're serving, what you're selling, who you're selling it to. It's irrelevant, because when you build the business of you, you're building a 100% original business. It can't be copied, because you are at the very center of it. You are the unique point, sort of port of call for everything when it comes to that business. It's uncopyable. It's fundamentally future-proof. And that's why I get so excited about this stuff. And I've seen it over and over and over again. So the self-awareness test right there at the front of everything will help you figure out who you really are, who you want to serve, how you're going to serve them, and most importantly, what you're not going to do. What you're not good at, don't do any of that stuff. Delegate it out to someone else. Do more of what you're great at, and greater things will happen.
Yes, man. You've already talked about my life in so many ways that, I haven't really shared before, but same thing. It's just like, I'm great at, not saying that I'm great at this stuff, but I'm going to figure it out. And putting all this time and energy doing things that that's not mandatory for me to do, right? And there can be a cost issue involved, where I'm saying, this whole thing is too expensive to do. That's why I'm going to figure out and put my sweat equity in. And there's some value in that. But you have to understand that today, more than ever, there are so many different options. And people that are great at jobs that you're trying to, sometimes use hundreds of hours to try to figure out, that they can do like in 30 minutes, right? And today, more than ever, people, we're connected and we can make these things happen. And by the way, I want to make another point of whether or not, even again, with the term entrepreneur, even if you're working in an established business, you have an employer, still these fundamental principles that Chris is talking about in his book, and being more yourself and really staying true to your gifts and talents, will help you succeed in any field. He literally, it's like a manual, step-by-step process of like creating or helping to flourish in the business that you're already in. So I highly recommend, if this is speaking to you, to make sure to pick up a copy of his new book, The Rise of the Youpreneur. So let's talk a little bit more about the you of Youpreneur, all right? As far as yourself, you mentioned earlier that you had a burnout moment yourself. So that's another reason I want to have you on, is to talk a little bit about this and taking care of yourself so that you can continue to take care of your life, your family, and your business.
So, I mean, in essence, actually, I've had two burnouts, but one that was kind of like a full-blown burnout, right? So at this point, it was late 2009, and we set the company up a few years before. We were already well into our seven figures in terms of revenue. We're doing great, maybe 130, 150 employees. Everything was great, except for the fact that I was sitting down for 16 hours a day behind a desk, 6 days a week, probably drinking, 8 cups of coffee a day. Diet was terrible, no exercise, typical heading for burnout business owner. And one day I couldn't get out of bed. I woke up, it was a weekend, it was a Sunday, I woke up and I physically, actually, Shawn, I couldn't get out of my bed. My wife left me to sleep in for a few more hours. She came back. I still couldn't get out of bed. She called the ambulance. They came to my house. They picked me up. They instantly put me on fluids. I went to the hospital. I did a whole bunch of tests. And ultimately, I was acutely dehydrated and exhausted. From that and recovery in hospital for about maybe a week or so came depression, because I was told I needed to take time off work. I'm an overworking A-type entrepreneur who believes that he should be micromanaging everything. Now I can't work. Now I'm going to get depressed, right? So bring on the antidepressants. Let's have some fun with those for a little while. But at the very same time, I also realized, quite frankly, that I needed a change. And so what happened was, between Christmas and New Year that year, 2009, me and my wife, Urs, we had a little staycation. We went to a beautiful resort here in the Philippines, and no gadgets, no devices, nothing, no children. And we just said, you know what? We need to figure out what we're going to do to be able to remove you from the business, because this isn't working no more. We need to make major changes. And hence 2010 became the year of the virtual CEO. So my goal was basically that by the end of 2010, I was going to remove myself as much as physically possible from the day-to-day running of the business. And to keep myself accountable for it, I was going to start a blog and I was going to start a podcast talking about it. And I blogged twice a week. I podcast once a week. And I kept myself super accountable. But something amazing happened in 2010. Number one, I hired 8 people to replace myself in the business. Yes, 8. You heard me right. That was how much of a micromanager I was. I was running the IT department. I still don't know how to plug in a mouse to a computer. You know what I mean? Like, what was I doing in the IT department, right? So I fundamentally replaced myself day to day from the call center facility, and I started a blog and podcast. And by the end of 2010, and this is 2010, I understand, I had about 6 or 7 email subscribers listening to every word I said and reading every word that I wrote about this journey. And that was when I realized that this is actually the way I want to actually help people. I want to be able to create content, serve people in this way, and do things I really love. But something even better happened. The business flourished without me around. We doubled revenue in 1 year. In our 4th year, we doubled our revenue. And I think we added about another 130 or so staff to the employee count as well. We're now up to 470 or something. And 2017, I actually counted it up with the help of my executive assistant just yesterday. She told me I went to the office, which, by the way, is a 15-minute drive away from my house where I work now. I went to the office 10 times in 2017.
Wow.
10 times. And we did a multi 7-figure year last year. So to say that I'm happier would be an understatement, but I'm also like doing a lot better business-wise, and I'm avoiding the burnout again. However, the story doesn't end there, because in mid-2012, even though I'd fundamentally achieved the virtual CEO goal, the damage, unfortunately, was already done to my lower back. And you and I actually had this great conversation the first time we ever talked about back issues, because obviously you had a lot of problems earlier on in your life and everything as well. And the damage was already done. I blew my L5S1 disc. I had to have surgery to fix it. I've now got a couple of rods and some screws in the base of my back. And, that required more recovery time, a lot more recovery time than the initial burnout. But the damage was already done in 2009. I was just, unfortunately, reaping the benefits of the burnout again a couple of years later. So, all this comes about to me now, working out 5 days a week. I don't go hardcore. I get on the cross trainer. I do yoga with my wife. She actually became a certified yoga teacher in the process of this as well. I eat cleaner than I've ever eaten in my life. I hydrate like my life literally depends on it, because I know it does. And I am not only a happier guy, but I am healthier today at the age of 44, almost 45, than I was probably in my early 30s. And, I look back on the burnout, and I guess I've got that to thank for all that.
Right.
But every now and then, when I've had a bit of a long day, or the kids have been wanting to run around too much, and my lower back starts to ache a little bit, it reminds me that maybe I'm not so lucky.
Wow.
But, you take the good with the bad, right? But, that's the burnout story right there.
Such a great story, and very sobering. And man, there's so many layers there. I'm just, thank you so much for sharing that. And for what I would want to say is that it's really apparent that your mess became your message, right? Your mess became your message.
Absolutely.
And you shifted gears, and now you're teaching other people how to be more holistic in their approach to their business. You came from behind the scenes to making your own brand, basically, where you have your podcast, you have your blog, you have your social media, and you're influencing and helping other people, where you could have been fine as far as financially, just behind the scenes and doing the stuff you were doing, but you took things to a whole new level and you wanted to show other people how to do the same thing. And that's what's so admirable. And that's part of what I want people to get today, is that your mess is your message, all right? Your mess is your message, whether it's in creating a business around that or just helping the people in your inner circle, you know, your friends and family, your colleagues, right? With your story of, you know, recovery from addiction, or your story of, you know, weight loss or getting out of a bad relationship, whatever it might be, that can be something really special. And we can share that in a small way or a big way. And also, when I want to talk about this now with you as well, is I want people to understand that today more than ever, the stuff that you're passionate about, that you're interested in, you can turn that passion into a business. You know, you can turn that passion in, or something that aids you in your business. And so, for example, there is an insane amount of people out there that are into Pokemon. All right, there's a Pokemon on Chris's shoulder right now. Just knocked it off. All right, there's so many people that are into these kind of things. There are massive blogs. There's podcasts about it. There's videos about Pokemon. All right, there's so much out there, and people are making revenue talking about Pokemon. All right, please understand, whatever kind of weird, obscure thing you might be into. Maybe you're like collecting those little Russian dolls, right? There's the doll inside the doll, those little Russian dolls. Maybe that's your thing. You could actually set up, you know, maybe it's an eBay thing, or something with Amazon. Like, you can actually set things up and make a career out of something you're passionate about. No matter how weird it might be, there are equally weird people, no offense, that are out there that are into the same thing. You know, so can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, you know, and I love that you bring up the, very genuinely, I love that you bring up the Pokemon example there, because one of the things that me and my youngest son like to do together as a father and son thing is play Pokemon Go. We like to go for walks, and we go to the park and go down to the beach, and, you know, we bring the phone along and we're playing Pokemon Go and we're catching the Pokemon. You got to catch them all, Pokemon. You got to do it, right? So we're out and about doing the father and son thing and all the rest of it. And not only, but very seriously, not only is that bonding time for us, but also it then comes back into the house, because, like you very clearly pointed out, there are people on YouTube, there are YouTubers, full-time YouTubers, making money out of making videos about Pokemon Go. And there's one particular guy that he watches all the time. His name is Mystic7. This kid, he's 21 years old. Or maybe 20 years old. He's got 1.6 million subscribers on his YouTube channel. He's making some serious bank on a monthly basis from his adverts. He's also leaving a lot of money on the table because he doesn't do enough sponsorships or anything like that. If I sit down with this guy for one day, he's going to owe me way more than a couple of extra Pokemon, and I can tell you that right now. I could teach this kid so much. But what I'm getting at here is that, like, you brought up that example, and we didn't plan that at all. Right. But it's the perfect example because, you know, it's something that if you're feeding someone's happiness, if you're helping them in some way, like this Mystic7 guy is for me and my son, you know, we talk about it over the breakfast table, or, hey, Daddy, at the weekend, can we go to the park and, you know, raid that Pokemon gym and do all this cool, fun stuff? And our boys are literally the same age, right? So we get this. But here's the thing. It is Pokemon Go. It's baseball cards. It's My Little Pony. It's secondhand books. It's, you know, Bruce Lee figures. It's anything and everything. As long as you've got a passion about something, you can actually then go ahead and find other people that got a passion to be more than happy to spend time with you, to learn more, to converse more, etc., etc. For me, my passion is helping people build successful businesses based around their personal brand. So when I work with somebody, I talk about how they're setting up their social media, how they're setting up their online home, why they shouldn't be, building their online home on rented land, like on YouTube or on Facebook. Get people on your email list. Listen to your audience. Create products, services, experiences, events, coaching, all these different monetization strategies as a personal brand entrepreneur. That's what I do. And I'm telling you, man, every single day I get emails, tweets, Facebook messages, all all my social platforms light up daily to the point where I can't do it all on my own anymore. And I know you know what this is like. My team has to help me reply to a lot of these people. And they're thanking me for the content that I'm creating. They're asking questions that I can then go ahead and turn into more content in the future for my community. And ultimately, they're validating my business idea day in, day out. And that's why I know I'm on the right path. I have fundamentally future-proofed myself as an entrepreneur by simply serving the people that I want to work with on an ongoing basis. And I've never been any happier, like I said.
Oh, man, I love it. You know what's crazy is, like you said, we didn't plan that. I just picked you up in the ethers. You were like beaming, like Pikachu was just coming off of you. And I just, because there were so many options, my mental Rolodex was like all these different things. I thought G.I. Joe, I thought My Little Pony, and Pokemon jumped right in there. That's so crazy.
I literally, on the other side of my office right now, I have little drawings that my son Charles has done of all of the different little Pokemon, and he comes in, he hangs them up on the wall here on the other side of the camera here.
That's
there's a whole
bananas.
bunch of them.
I love that, man. But I think another thing that we need to cue into today, and for everybody listening, our family right here at the Model Health Show, is I think it's really important that you realize that this is possible, right? I think it's important that you realize and that you give yourself permission to do work that you enjoy and start to move in that direction. Because so often we have these stories of like, it's all about hard work. It's all about the 9 to 5. It's about the grind. If I'm going to pay my bills, this is the way it's going to go. And a lot of the things that we do are built on our belief system, right? And I say this multiple times on the show, but the number one driving force of the human psyche is to stay congruent with the ideas that it carries about itself. And so there's not going to be very much activity that you do outside of your belief system. So if you believe that you have to do this particular job and this is the only way that you can survive, I've got 3 kids or, I'm in school, whatever the case might be, so be it. That's the end of the story. So what I'm asking you to do is to give yourself permission to think bigger. Give yourself permission to think otherwise. Again, if you're content and fulfilled with what you're doing right now, that's beautiful. Like, embrace that. But as we've talked about earlier in the show, we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars lost each year because of burnout, because of unhappiness at work, and then the residual health issues. Heart disease, like you can literally have a heart attack. And we think this is something we know about, like with the TV show, like Sanford and Son. He's like, Elizabeth, he's like holding his heart. He's stressed out. He's going to have a heart attack, right? You can do that any day, right? Because of the stress that you're carrying with being unhappy with the thing that you're actually spending the most time doing in your life. So again, give yourself permission to do work that you actually enjoy, or find a way to enjoy what you're doing. So I think one other thing I want to talk to you about before we kind of dive in and talk about some of these things that you can outsource with your health, which I think people are going to be fascinated with, is you're known for helping people to outsource. So that's part of what you did early on. And you mentioned this a little bit already, to really focus on what you're good at, right? So that's what we want people to start to do. Focus more on what you're good at and kind of let go of the stuff that is not really your dharma. Is that kind of a good way to say it?
That's exactly a great way to do it. I mean, I got another exercise for your listeners. If it's okay, I'll share it. We started off with the self-awareness test. Now we're going to go with what I call the 3 lists to freedom. And I actually talked about this in my first book, Virtual Freedom. I'm a big fan of making lists. I think when we write things down in that kind of controlled environment, it leads to some pretty major breakthroughs a lot of the time. So I like to make a lot of lists on a very regular basis. So the 3 lists of freedom, same thing. Get a piece of paper, draw 2 lines down at this time, creating 3 columns. Column number 1, you want to basically end up writing down everything from a business owner perspective that you just hate doing every single day. Ultimately, your business demands this stuff of you, but you hate it. The second list is a list of all the things that you can't do or that you struggle doing day to day. So these are kind of like, this is where some of the stress will start, it'll ease off a little bit. It's not as stressful as the stuff that you hate doing, but it's still there. But you struggle on, you soldier on, again, because maybe you feel like you have to do it because you're the guy running the show, or because, there's no one else around right now, or whatever the case may be. So that's the second list of all the things that you can't do or you struggle doing. Then the third list, and this is by far the single most important list, because you might actually be pretty good at these things. You might actually like doing these things. But the big question for the third list is, should you be doing these particular tasks? As the business owner, as you are, as the fitness coach, as you are, as the teacher, as you are, should you actually be doing these particular tasks? And that, again, you put that together, you've got your roadmap to start delegating a lot of the aspects in your life that kind of cause stress or sleeplessness or, whatever the case may be. And, that's really the easiest way that I know of being able to start delegating certain tasks and aspects of your life and move on and enjoy it a lot more.
Ooh, that last category. I know my wife is like,
Strong.
Shawn, yeah, because I've went back and forth with her. Like, no, I like doing this. I've got this part. But it might take up,
Right.
a couple of hours a week for no reason, and just, man.
Yeah,
So
and how valuable.
I'm listening to the message myself.
Good man, you should be as well. Everybody should. Even me. I mean, I do this task myself twice a year. I do this exercise. So the big thing is this. The reason why you should be listening is because how much is your time worth? Right? Time is our most valuable commodity. It's not like money. Money will come and go, right? You spend it, you lose it, you invest it, you make it. It is what it is. But time, once you've spent or invested your time, it's gone forever.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about at the top of the show, half of our waking hours were at work. Holy moly. Are you serious? So once you invest your time in something, it's gone forever. You can never get it back. So that big question is, well, if this is only going to take me 2 hours per week to do, but my time is worth $500 an hour, what if I could end up actually delegating that task to somebody for $300? You know what I mean? It becomes a whole different ball game. And so, that's 2 hours of your week right there that you can spend coaching high-level clients or creating more content to serve your audience, or just simply being with your family and just having some downtime.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody, you'll be so surprised at how cost effective this is because, again, there's no barrier. It's not just like your neighbor or the cobbler down the street to do your whole thing, whatever. It's like you've got a world community that oftentimes, it's so like hyper educated and skilled. And there's a lot of competition even, And so, again, I just want to implant these ideas to start to think about these. But now I want to talk about and dive into some things that we can outsource specifically related to health and fitness that you might have never considered before or even considered seriously before. And I think this is one of the biggest reasons, again, people give for not eating healthy or for exercising is I don't have enough time, right? And it's so funny when I hear like somebody who's like single, they don't have no kids, saying I don't have time. Man, come on now. I've got, I have 3 kids and all this other stuff going on, but, it's kind of cemented in. And it's because some of these things, again, get outsourced. So let's start with meal prep, right? Let's talk about food. So you can either outsource the process itself or you can outsource the expertise on how to do it right. So let me explain what I mean. So outsourcing your meal prep, this is literally having somebody else to do your meal prep. And there's great services out there now that can handle this stuff. Just go to Dr. Google, type it in, or go to Coach YouTube, type it in. That's a new one I just came up with. We got Dr. Google.
That's
Coach
good. I like
YouTube,
that. I like that.
So you heard it here first. All right. So you can outsource that and look into, different people in your area that do that kind of thing, services, or maybe it's just somebody that you hire for that job. Another thing is outsourcing the expertise on how to do it right so you don't have to pine away and waste a lot of time figuring it out. And so I love Amanda Mixner. Now, so you can go to Meow Mix on Instagram. That's MEOWMEIX on Instagram. She's like the boss when it comes to meal prep and just learn from the best, implement, replicate, and execute. All right, so that's another thing that you can do with the meal prep. Because again, if you can get somebody to just chop stuff up, you just throw it in the pan or whatever the case might be, it makes it a lot easier. Another one, and this is new for us right here, because this was taking away time with, my wife runs operations for us, which is such a gift, but it's been a process. And as you know, and this is why, we click up so well, because your wife works with you as well, is, this process of taking things off of her plate. And so one of the things could be just basic maintenance, like cleaning the house. And so I've done Instagram videos where I'm dancing, doing the dishes, like I'm having a good time. I'll help manual labor style, but also what about bringing somebody in to help clean the house? Maybe just, again, once a week, every couple of weeks to do a nice deep cleaning. That concept might seem foreign to us because it's like, I know for me personally, Chris, and I'll ask you about this, but when I would think of like having, somebody come clean the house, I'm thinking like, oh, you Fresh Prince of Bel-Air now, huh? Oh, you got Jeffrey now, huh? No, this is again, a skill and a gift that other people provide that if you look at your time being your money, and even in Kenya, when she lived in Kenya, they had a housekeeper that lived with them and they were poor, like literally, I'm talking like their house was the size of this room that I'm in right now, if that. And so, but the culture here is different. So just consider that. Maybe that's something, again, you can take off the plate as far as house cleaning. So Chris, if you want to jump in here and add anything with that, or also what about like childcare, things like that?
Sure. Well, I mean, as a father of 4, so I got you beat. Sorry, brother. But as a father of 4, I particularly as myself and Urs obviously do work together in the business. There's a couple things that, that are a no-brainer for us to delegate to other people. First and foremost, I will say that neither me or my wife has ironed a single garment, a single piece of clothing for probably the last 5 years. Neither of us like ironing. It's an easy job for people who actually are just quite happy to stand there and do it. But we absolutely despise it. So we just delegate it. We have somebody come to our house twice a week, and she's incredible. And I give her, probably maybe 20% more than, she would get from other customers. And she loves us. And, we give her Christmas gifts and everything. She's been with us for years. So ironing is one thing. When it comes to the kid, particularly the baby right now, little Cassandra, she's almost 3 months old, I want to be as involved as I possibly can be, because I know that with every passing day, Cassie's getting older and older and older, and that opportunity for me to rock her to sleep or burp her after a feed or change her diaper, yes, I'm a modern man, all that kind of stuff, right?
Go.
Well, I just don't want to get into trouble, Shawn, is really what it's all about. Want a nice, quiet, easy life, right? But the fact is, though, I know that that's not going to be around. That opportunity won't be around forever. So I want to be there as much as I possibly can. So actually, over the last few months, except for a little bit of traveling, every single morning, I've blanked my entire schedule and had my virtual assistants go in and clean out my social media for me instead of me doing it. Go in and clean out my email as best as possible instead of me doing it, so I can spend the entire morning with Cassandra and just playing with her. And sometimes I'll lay down and have a little cat nap with her as well for half an hour or so, because I know I won't get the chance. And babies smell so good when they're at that age.
Yeah.
It's tough not to just want to scoop them up and be with them the whole time, right? So there's certain things that, you only get one shot at them. And right now, that's my thing every single morning. It won't be able to go on forever, obviously, because, certain situations arise and scheduling and travel and things like that. But whenever I can, I will always delegate things off for me to be able to spend, more time with the people that I love. And you know what? There's always more Pokemon to catch as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that, man. So, one of the things that pops into my mind as you were talking, I didn't think about this one beforehand, is outsourcing. So you talked about outsourcing to spend more time. What about outsourcing so that you get more time to be, quote, away from the kids? So I'm thinking about now there's a big advent of like childcare centers at gyms, for example. Like if your thing is like, I can't get to the gym, I got the kids, whatever, go to a gym where they have reputable childcare. You know, maybe you make that extra investment. Maybe it's another $10 a month or whatever, like small thing it is that we'll talk ourselves out of. And it really amazes me, you know, if you really think about it, you know, some gyms being like $10 a month, or even, you know, if we get into like maybe $50 a month, and that's considered expensive, right? But how valuable are you? Like, we're talking about something to truly take care of the thing that's making the money, which is you, and to be the best version of yourself. But $50, you know. So I want to reframe the money expenditure. But one other thing I wanted to share with everybody as far as outsourcing is the actual purchasing of food. There's like food deliveries now where, you know, even kind of upper echelon stores will, you know, you provide them a list, they'll get the stuff and they'll actually deliver to your house. All right, so consider that if that's one of the big stresses for you, and time and that kind of thing, in order for you to get high quality food. And also for me, I use Thrive Market a lot. And so Thrive Market is where we get a lot of our kind of, you know, non-perishable stuff. And we get a lot of, you know, snacks for the kids. We get personal care products. I don't have to go to Target no more. I don't really like being there in Walmart personally, but I get all that stuff in there. This is the key, is that, you know, these are the highest quality premium products available. But, and I don't know if you know about this, Chris, I don't think they have Thrive Market in the Philippines yet, but this is amazing. They actually provide them, so everybody knows about Whole Foods. We're talking about 25 to 50% less than the price at Whole Foods for the same product. So Thrive Market has all the top premium healthy ingredients, organic products that, again, non-GMO, all the labels that we look for, but the very best brands, and they curate them to get the best. You can shop right from your home using categories like non-GMO, organic, vegan, gluten-free, paleo, sustainably farmed, whatever it is that speaks to your ethics and your system of buying and investment. And again, you get 25 to 50% off the price you find in a store. Plus, by the way, guys, and this is for your first purchase, you get 25% additional off your entire purchase, plus free shipping and free 30-day trial membership. Go to thrivemarket.com/model health. All right, thrivemarket.com/model health. You get, again, additional 25% off. I love those guys. I always kick myself when I don't order something from them and I end up buying it at Whole Foods. No disrespect to Whole Foods. Love Whole Foods. But this is a way that you can outsource something, do it from the comfort of your home, save money, save time. All right, so one other thing I want to talk to you about as far as, and this is tied into the health and fitness thing, is another thing you can outsource is your training. Now, clearly, no one else can do their push-ups for you, right? Nobody could do your push-ups for you. I think Jim Rohn said that. But you can outsource the expertise. So didn't we worked out together, right? Or no, you came at the tail end of the workout when we were there.
That's, yeah, my son was working out with you, though. My son was working out, who is a certified PT. Yeah. But no, you gave me a pass that morning because you know, I was hosting an event. I was very, very tired. I needed my beauty sleep, you know.
So what I'm vying for is for you to take advantage of your son's expertise, you know, outsource that. But it's kind of, you know, it can be a little weird.
Well, no, I'll tell you a true story. I mean, when I was recovering from my back surgery, obviously I couldn't do too much, you know, physical activity straight away. But what I really did want to do, I didn't want to just sort of just lay down on my bed all day long and lose strength and muscle mass and all the rest of it. And I'm not the biggest health nut in the world, okay? But what I do understand is this. If I move my body on a daily basis, I'll feel better because of it. If I eat good food 95% of the time, I will live longer because of it, right? So these are very simple things that I follow. But one thing I didn't want to do was just lay in bed for, 2-3 months recovering from back surgery. So I actually had a yoga instructor, because I didn't want to invest the time of driving over and getting in and out of cars where I wasn't feeling too comfortable and everything. I had a yoga instructor come to the house 3 times a week just to do very, very light floor stretching with me. And not only that, but I then hired a swimming coach to come and take me to the swimming pool, which is maybe 10 minutes in one direction from us, and then actually be in the pool with me, making sure I was balanced and, I was doing the right movements. I wasn't going to affect my back and all the rest of it. And I'm 100% sure this entire focus on getting better enabled me to be able to recover from that surgery much quicker than I probably should have. I mean, I was up and walking around without any major issues, 4 weeks post-surgery without any problems at all. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, now I'm doing a little bit better. Now I can sit up for a little bit longer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, whether it was the yoga instructor, whether it was the swim instructor, whether it was, getting one of my staff members from my office going and picking up salads and juices and smoothies for me because I wasn't moving around all that much. I wasn't going to sit there eating, bigger meals. I wanted to try and keep as lean as I could. And ultimately, I think it all helped. And it was just that mindset of, this is my priority right now. I'm going to get other people to help me achieve what my goal is, which was just recovering, period. That was it. The same thing can be said for someone that's building a business or someone that's changing career path or whatever the case may be. Just figure out what your priority is, focus on that priority and nothing else. And then once you've hit the goal, you can move on to the next one and so on and so on.
Right. Well said, man. One other point here, I keep saying one other point, but so many things come up when you're talking. I just remember, what about this? What about that? And again, I want everybody just to know that this is an option. We can definitely do a lot of stuff ourselves, but I love the quote from Oprah that says that you can do anything, but you can't do everything. Right? You can do anything, but you can't do everything. So find ways, especially on your path to becoming the best version of yourself, to improving your health and fitness. What are things that you can outsource? Again, you can put the time and energy into figuring it out. And I believe that there's a lot of great stuff that's figure outable that you can do on your own. But when it comes to hiring a trainer, for example, that takes the planning and guesswork out. It's outsourcing accountability, outsourcing expertise. For a lot of people, they'll just be over on the cardio machines and they'll go and do a few curls with the pink weights, and instead of getting a real strategy and getting the results that you want. Another thing is group training, boot camps. CrossFit boxes are really thriving because of this concept of outsourcing community, right? That's one of the things that we fall into a problem with. And I want to talk about that with you specifically, is how do we have that support? How do we have the community? How do we have the environment? Right. And that's something that with those type of things, you can outsource that because you don't necessarily have to build it yourself. So let's talk a little bit more about that and the community aspect.
So, the community that I'm involved with every single day is the Youpreneur mastermind community. So, we created this community because I had so many of my clients say, it's great. Your one-day mastermind events that you hold are fantastic. They always give us breakthroughs. When we get together at this meetup, when you're speaking at this conference, it's fantastic. I always make new contacts. But we want something more. We want to be held accountable. We want to be able to have that support system to lean on as and when we need it. But likewise, we want to be able to learn new things on how we can actually build our business at the same time as well. So we created the Youpreneur Mastermind community, which sits over at youpreneur.com, and it's a monthly recurring revenue business model. And every month, our members pay $59 a month to have access to an ever-expanding acceleration training library with lots of, tips and strategies for building a business and everything. But that's not really the reason why people stick around. They stick around because of the community forums. And every single day, hundreds of youpreneurs from all around the world are in those forums talking about everything from, website design to email list building to work-life balance to live events that they're attending, troubles with clients. You name it. Literally everything has been discussed. And I can see it every day. Every single day. And I ask myself the same question quite often. What would these people do if they didn't have each other? What would they be doing if they didn't have each other? If they didn't have that built-in support system that the community's given them? And they'd probably be a lot less happy. They might even be confused. They could be depressed. They could be, beyond stressed out. And it as the community leader, it really fuels me to continue to grow and focus on it as a major part of our business because we know that it serves our people so very well. So I think the power of community is absolutely huge. And it doesn't matter what your interests are. Find people that dig the same stuff you dig, hang out with them, help them, be a shoulder to cry on from time to time, and just be happy with each other. And I mean, we do it every day. It's incredible. I know you have an amazing community yourself.
Yes, definitely. And this is a great segue into, in the book, you talk about the 5 ways to develop successful relationships. I started the show off by saying that I believe your relationships are the number one most influential thing on your health and your success in life. So, but oftentimes we're coming in hot. We're coming into this the wrong way, and we can really kind of screw things up, and also not leveraging the opportunity. So let's cover a few of those. Maybe we can get to all 5 really quickly, but what are the 5 ways to develop successful relationships? Let's at least get to maybe the top 3. So let's go with the first one that you have here in the book. Have a long-term mindset. What does that mean?
Yeah, long-term mindset is, it sometimes can sound a little bit kind of counterintuitive, but ultimately what it means is that you shouldn't change who you are deep down just to please someone. Okay? So my focus here is that real, true relationships are, they're built on honesty and loyalty and integrity. Relationships should be treasured, not used. So really value your current relationships. It's really, really easy, particularly with our current relationships, to start taking them for granted after a certain period of time. But we shouldn't get bored with them and start looking at cultivating others. We should get to the point where, we are focusing in creating those deeper relationships with the people that are already around us. And I mean, perfect example is you and I. We haven't known each other very long, but the time that we've spent with each other over the last couple of years, I know it will be built on as we get older and we, achieve more things and go about our business and our lives. I know that, we're not exactly brothers or cousins or best friends, but I know that I could come to you with a problem and you would help me out. And I can guarantee you the same thing for mine. So have that long-term mindset. Relationships, I'll say it again, should be treasured, not used. That's a pull quote from the book. I put it in a huge big page on its own. The second one is to put a premium on really developing yourself. So we go through a lot of things like, are you trying to sort of take out of your relationships more than you're willing to give? That's messed up. That's not going to help anyone, especially you, anytime soon. And the people that are around you, going back to what I was talking about before, your reputation, what people say about you when you're not around, that's what you need to focus in on. So the question is like, do you actually bring value? Mm-hmm. Like genuine value to your network? If you're not doing that currently, check yourself out and find out why that's not actually happening right now. Then we talk about developing what I call my P2P mindset. So P2P stands for people to people. So we've got B2B, business to business, B2C, business to consumer. But P2P is what it's all about, particularly for me in the personal brand business world. People, for me, they're not vanity numbers like, my Facebook followers or my Twitter fans or something like that. They're not subscribers, they're not sort of, open rates on emails. Like, I'm talking a little online business jargon here. But people are people. People want to do business with other people, right? So it really means that, not to underestimate simple things like saying thank you.
Yeah.
Like, say thank you all the time. If somebody does something for you, just say thank you and be happy to say it. Say sorry when you mess up. Own it. Own your mistakes. Little things like that, that P2P mindset, particularly when you're building relationships and particularly when you're building relationships in business, it's these tiny little things that people remember and they make the biggest difference in your overall success as an entrepreneur as far as I'm concerned. So there's a few things and, there's a few more that I put in the book as well. They're a few of my favorites.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And wow, this is, again, and actually, I'm just going to throw this out here. This is another one. It's tied in here because it just fits in this moment, is to be intentional. And that's one that you put in the book, because with all of this stuff that he's talking about, it's waking up and realizing, like, let's do this with a purpose, right? Instead of just willy-nilly, like, things happen, and life will gladly grant you that. Like, if you're not being clear about your intention, your life will seem pretty random, And it's not that you being intentional is going to even take away from the happy coincidences. Even Chris and I meeting and connecting was a happy coincidence. It was all these other factors. It wasn't like, I've got to meet Chirs Ducker. That's like, I didn't have his poster up in my bedroom, right? And he didn't have mine. But it was like my intention on service, my intention on giving my gift, my intention on helping to uplift people. Those happy coincidences led us to connecting and bringing that up a few notches for both of us collectively, And so it's even today in what we've created. And so thank you so much for sharing this and sharing your gift, man. Final question for you. What is the model that you're here to set with the way you live your life personally? What is the model you're setting for other people with how you live your life personally?
For me, it comes down to being me all the time. I don't want any smoke and mirrors about me and what I do. Like I said, what you see is what you get. Some people will like it, some people won't. In the business world, I call it marketing like a magnet, where I attract the best and at the very same time, I repel the rest. So just be you all the time. Nothing bad will happen if you're a nice person and you care about other people. Just be you all the time, and don't waver on that. Great things will happen to you if you're a good person.
Perfect. And so on that note, Chris, again, thank you so much for sharing your gift, sharing your smile, sharing your Pokemon stories. I truly appreciate it, man. You were literally, and I don't think we really talked about this very much, but even my assistant, who was like just amazing, like came in, changed my life, man, was through you and through your resources, through your teaching. My assistant, her name is Alpha, best name ever. And she is Alpha. She really is the boss in many ways. So a big shout out to her. But just learning how to expand your reach, learning how to do more with the time that you're here. You've provided so much value in my life that you don't even know about. And so I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, man. And right back at you. I love everything you do and what you stand for. And what I really love about you more than anything else is you're just like me. You're a family guy that wants to do good for the people he loves. And I love that about you.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Can you let everybody know where they can pick up your brand new book and where they can connect with you online?
Sure. Well, I'm at Chirs Ducker on all the social platforms. So hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. And the book is available at youpreneur.com/book. It's up on Amazon and everywhere else.
There it is, everybody. Chirs Ducker. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show today. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. I've got the book right here in my hands. Make sure to pick yourself up a copy. And I'm going to use Chris's right now. And if you're checking this out on YouTube, you can see this in the background. He's got a quote. It says, "Never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life." And that's what this is really about. We can get really caught up in the day-to-day. We can get caught up in all the rigmarole. And I think this is the first time I ever said rigmarole. Shout out to that random word. But today, more than ever, we have to be more conscientious and intentional in our time. There's so much distraction, hyper-distracted world, and focus is at a premium. And so I want you to be intentional in the things that you are here to do, that you're passionate about. Try to hone in on that. And I know some folks are like, well, I might not even know what my passion is. I'm still looking for that. Good news, got an episode of the Model Health Show. We'll put in the show notes where I dive in and break down that topic specifically. All right, but generally it's going to be something that you're pretty close to, something that, you have an inclination to be associated with. And it's more so about giving yourself permission to be associated with work that brings you joy. Crazy as it sounds, we think that our work should be like tear us down. And in some cases, even work that you love will do that for sure. But at the end of the day, today more than ever, the rise of the Youpreneur, this is about being associated with things that are uplifting to yourself, and so that you're able to give your gift at another level, right? You're taking good care of yourself and your psyche, giving and being of service to the world in a higher way, so that can, number one, it impacts you, as we've talked about, but also that trickle down effect and how it changes the world. It changes your inner circle, your close family, your extended family, your community, and the world, simply by you giving your gift. Now, whether you get this or not, I'm still going to say it. I know for certain, there are a few things that I know for certain. I know that you are a unique, blessed individual who's gifted with certain things that have never been seen before in human history and will never be seen again after. You are special. And today, more than ever, we need to share those special gifts that we all have within us. This might be a small thing that we consider small, of just having a sense of compassion and giving and being there to care and support other people. This might be a leadership role. This might be in creating art and music. This might be in athletic endeavors. Whatever it might be for you, today more than ever, it's time to step up and to give that gift. All right? I appreciate you so much for tuning into the show today. If you got a lot of value out of this, make sure to share it out on social media. And of course, tag me. I'd love to see that. I appreciate you immensely. More good stuff is on the way. All right? Take care. Have an amazing day. And I'll talk with you soon.